Okay, good stuff. So I'm going to transition. So our paper 1, AS and A level, we need to, so paper 1, obviously paper 1 and 2 are the papers that we are focused on, right? So the things we need to know is how to, we need to have an understanding of a wide variety, right? Okay. So I think what would be helpful is if maybe I created like a self-study guide for you so that you know more or less what's expected of you in terms of like what you need to be doing in your own time. You know what I mean? Like tasks that I won't be giving you, but you're still expected to do these tasks.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, these things you need to interact with and read a variety of different texts. These are the texts that need to be read. Understood. Just give me a moment. Okay. So the first thing we've got is an advertisement, and I have gone through what the features of advertisements are. I think we can maybe go into it with a little bit more detail, but I don't want to go too into it right now. I do have a couple of things going to, okay. So, in terms of an advertisement, what we need to know, so for each of them, we need to explore their conventions. Narrative perspective. And format. Okay. Now, in terms of conventions, we want to always be looking at register, how brief it needs to be. So for instance, what would you say is the difference between writing an article for a newspaper and writing it for a magazine in terms of brevity?
I think the newspaper one might be a bit shorter.
Okay, yes. Why? Why though?
because the newspaper is for just like the highlights and important things. I think in a magazine article you would put in more details because that's what, yeah, I don't know.
But think about it, like why? What would, even if we look at adverts in newspapers are much shorter than adverts in magazines, right? What would you say the reason is for that? Do you think that that's just because someone decided it, or why?
I think people might read magazine articles more for fun, like they spend more time reading it than a newspaper. So they will have more time to read the article and the
Okay, so do you think it is a matter of time? Okay. I lost this piece. Oh, it was here. So you think it is a matter of time. Now, I would say that it's probably because newspapers have less pages.
yeah.
Okay? So there is less space to write. Okay? And since there is less space, there is a higher, and newspapers need to be sold at a lower price. You can't sell a newspaper for 100 Rand.
Yeah.
A newspaper is going to be sold for a really low price. And so words cost money, space costs money. And so therefore, a newspaper will have, will be more brief. So when we're looking at our conventions, we're looking at register, how brief it needs to be. This includes our audience. We're looking at our general tone, and perhaps we're also looking at the types of words we use. Okay, so we're looking at all of that. Now, we've got adverts. Now, something we should note is that there are different types of adverts. What can you name different types of adverts?
Well, there's like drinks or food and hair products, clothes.
No, those are products to advertising different things. When I say different types of adverts, I mean like long form adverts versus short form adverts. Let's quickly look for a long form advert.
And like some have only like a few words and lots of pictures, and some go more in detail.
Yes. So here's an example. This is a long copy ad, okay? Which is great. That's not the longest I've seen. Look at this one. This one's like super long. And it's giving like a whole article. And it's almost like you're advertising for you're understanding that it's a magazine and people want to read in the magazine. They don't so almost like fitting in fitting your advertising in with the rest of the content on the platform. So in the magazine. So yeah. Okay, so we've got different types of adverts. And what are the conventions of each type? So for instance, there was a bit of an advert in the podcast that we did, okay? So in that podcast, how did we do? Why did we do what we did? And we had a bit of advertising in that podcast because we were trying to achieve a purpose, which was getting people to buy. We've got brochures. We need to understand what brochures are, but where do we see all these things? Like, where do you find adverts? Where do you find brochures? Where do you find leaflets?
Or in shops.
I would say that we find them by living life. Right?
Yeah, you can like find them anyway.
Okay. So something that might be good is to create your own database of text types. Is that okay?
So by that, what do you mean exactly?
Okay. So if you go, what I mean is, I'm just thinking of a good way to do this. I've got an idea. Okay. So we're going to do this, and we're going to say dates. Then we're going to say text link. So at that point, you can either like upload it to your Google Drive, you can paste a photo, however you want to like link to it. Because I'm expecting that every day we see some kind of text, right? We just need to start interacting with the text that we're seeing instead of just passively seeing them. Okay? Text name, text type, conventions, audience, and purpose. Okay. Do you think that all makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to freeze this. And I'm going to put today's date, so 2023, 04, 24. And I want to create a task. Every day, I want you guys to create so I'm going to make this until the end of May. Every day, I want you to find another piece of writing. You're going to find a lot. Okay? Are we cool with that? So if you're looking for a piece every day, this is going to be the master tab. I'll call this master. Oh no, I want to duplicate. And I'll create a tab for.
Are you gonna post this on Google Classroom?
Yes, I'm going to give.
Okay.
The thing is, I know that if I tell you to just passively go look for things, you're going to probably remember every now and then, but you're just not going to remember. You know what I mean? But I think if I give you it as a task, as like a project that you do, then you have this awareness that you've got this actual project. Okay. So let me just share it. I'm pasting it here. Okay. So there's the Google Doc, and you can add text every day. So however you want to add them, we're going to add them. Okay. So I don't know if you know this, but if you go into your Google Classroom, if you go into your Google Drive and you go into our Google Classroom, which is shared with you, you can see that there's like a folder with your name. And you can just post them there, so then you've got an easy way to link it. Okay. Okay, so next up, let's continue with this. We've got leaflets, editorials. Now, what is an editorial?
I'm not really sure.
You want to look it up quickly and see if you can find a good definition?
Yeah, I'll do that. It says here that it is a short essay that shares an individual's opinion on a current event or social issue. So, is it almost like a review, but just longer and not long? It's not a review.
Okay. You just agreed that it was not a review. It's definitely not a review. Now what would you say? You mentioned that it's not a review, but what would you say is what makes a review and an editorial different?
Sorry for the dogs in the background.
Okay.
A review is say like people are advertising some new products and you give your opinion on it and say if you like it or not, why you like it. But an editorial is you give your own opinion or point of view on an event that happened or something that is going on.
I'm done.
Just give me a moment. Okay, so what would you say would the purpose be of a review?
Well, you're giving feedback to the people that made the product that you bought, if it's a product, and other people can decide, like they might go and look to your review and decide if they want to buy it or not.
Okay, so you're giving feedback. Yes, I totally agree with that. And I think also something to note is that with a review, the audience isn't always the company itself, but it is all the people, all the other customers. So you were good, you did mention that. It is all the other customers who might want to look at that product or whatever, or buy that product, that you are almost warning them not to buy that product. Does that make sense?
Well, it could be a good review.
Or it could be a good review. You're telling them, yes, they definitely should buy that product.
Yeah.
Okay. So, there's all of that. Then we've got news stories, articles. Now, is a news story different to an article?
I think so.
In what ways?
I think a news story focuses more on like important things, and an article is more for entertainment.
You're basing that on what information? Okay, let's put it this way. If I write an article about the impacts that, okay, let's say I write a piece, and the piece is about the impacts of Russian military progression into Ukraine and the impact that it has on their education system. Is that a news story or an article?
A news story?
Okay.
Oh, no. I'm not sure. It could be an article because
It is an article, but is it important?
well, not everyone is going to read it because not everyone.
Okay, but not everyone's going to read a news story in my town is like they filled the pothole. Not everyone's going to read that.
Yeah.
But it is a news story. So you say news stories are important and articles are not. Articles are more for entertainment. but news stories are very much to inform, yes, whereas articles are more likely to discuss different aspects of something, right? So it takes a broader approach to a news story. Often you might have a news story which sets off an article, or multiple articles that come from that news story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. So then we've got reviews. We spoke about reviews. Blogs are usually, like, they can be quite broad. I actually have an example here of an English blog post. Okay. So this is a blog post. She was actually a homeschooler. So she's got a clear heading, clear title. Then there is the YouTube video. And then there is basically a summary of what she has spoken about. So this paper has two sections. Section A, imaginative writing, and it's got clear headings throughout. And then it's got like a character sheet. So she suggests that you create a character before your exam. Okay, it's actually a really great idea. And so section A is okay, no, the section B is imaginative. Oh, wait. Question A is imaginative. So the things we could get are things like a story, a narrative. And so it's quite clear. I'm not even reading the text, but I'm able to kind of follow through the piece by just looking at these different concepts. See that?
Yeah, I do.
I might be mistaken. When was this? I'm gonna open this.
Hi, my name's Lily.
Oh, this is the old syllabus. Okay, that's why it was a little. Okay, but do you see that everything was quite clear, and she used very basic language, easy language that's easy to understand. She used highlighting, which is a topographical feature, typographical feature. She used these bullet points, which is related to graphology, and she basically just made it very easy to follow. Instead of doing like a long written piece, she just bullet pointed. And I think that's quite useful, right? Especially considering her audience. Her audience is tired of reading all the things, and so she has done it in this way. So this is a blog post. Okay? Now, I've also seen blog posts which are very wordy and talk a lot. I don't know if you've looked up a recipe later, but you know that whole life story that they have before their recipe?
Yeah, like,
Like they tell you about how the recipe makes them feel like it's a warm summer's afternoon. And I'm like, can we please just shut up and get to the recipe? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and they're like, this is the best thing I've ever tasted.
Yes. And I discovered this recipe when my child was sick with pneumonia and we thought we were going to lose him. And it can be quite dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, you get blogs of different types, and we've got investigative journalism, which is also really great. That's where they're doing a lot of researching and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever watched, like, Superman.
No.
Okay, so Lois Lane, Superman's girlfriend or wife in some iterations, she's an investigative journalist. And so she investigates different things. Did you ever watch Supergirl?
No, but I think I know what investigative journalists do.
Okay. Then we've got letters, podcasts. We spoke about podcasts in our thing. We've got autobiographies and biographies. Now, they are different. You need to know the differences. You need to know how they differ. We need to have travel writing. We need diaries. So travel writing is like writing about, like you can, that's usually like on blogs or something like that. Or I don't know if you read the Go magazine. It's probably, you probably have the Afrikaans one though called Wag.
No, I don't.
Anyway, so that is travel writing. Then we've got essays. So remember when, oh no, that was a speech that I read you. Just thinking of what essays. Well, you should read argumentative essays. You should read people's opinions.
So you once sent us a link to like 40 best essays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy them? Well, did you read many of them?
Yeah, I did read some of them. You said you liked the moth one. Like, I like that too. It's
Oh, it was so good.
descriptive.
Okay, so here are some essays on the New Yorker. Do you see how we can actually find essays on different things, and there are different essays on different topics. So when you go through these things, I don't want you to just like give me a list of things. I want you to actually read the essays, and that's where people go wrong. They think that the task is to find the piece of writing. But the task is not to find the writing. The task is to read the writing and interact with it. Okay. Then we've got narrative writing and descriptive writing. Let's really go look at this. Well, what do you think of it, Mother asked? Okay, let me just see here. Oh, there we go. For some time, Mother had greatly envied us our swimming, both in the daytime and at night. But as she pointed out, when we suggested she join us, she was far too old for that sort. Eventually, however, constant pressure from us, Mother paid a visit, returned to the villa, coyly bearing a. Opening this, she astonished us all by holding up an extraordinary, shapeless garment, black, covered from top to bottom, hundreds of frills. Well, what do you think of it? I asked. We stared at the old garment and wondered what it was for. What is it? Asked Larry at length. It's a bathing costume, said Mother. What on earth did you think it was? It looks to me like a badly skinned whale, said Larry, staring at it closely. You can't possibly wear that, Mother, said Margot, horrified. Why? It looks as though it was made in 1920. What were all those frills and things for? Asked Larry with decoration, of course, said Mother indignantly. Well, I like it anyway, Mother said firmly, wrapping the monstrosity up again. And I'm going to wear it. You'll have to be careful you don't get waterlogged with all that cloth around you, said Leslie seriously. Mother, it's awful. You can't wear it, said Margot. Why on earth didn't you get something more up to date? When you get to my age, dear, you can't go around in a two-piece bathing suit. You don't have the figure for it. I'd love to know what sort of figure that was, remarked Larry. You really are hopeless, Mother, said Margot despairingly. But I like it. I'm not asking you to wear it, Mother pointed out believingly. That's right. You do what you want to do. Don't be put off. It'll probably suit you very well if you can grow another 3 or 4 legs to go with it. Mother snorted indignantly and swept upstairs to my own. Presently, she called us to come and see the effect. We all trooped up to the bathroom. Roger was the first to enter, and on being greeted by the strange apparition, clad in this voluminous black costume rippling with frills, he retreated hurriedly through the door, backwards, barking ferociously. It was some time before we could persuade him that it really was Mother. Even then, he kept giving her vaguely uncertain looks from the corner of his eye. However, in spite of all opposition, Mother stuck to her tent-like bathing suit. In the end, in order to celebrate her first entry into the sea, we decided to have a moonlight picnic down at the bay and sent an invitation to Theodore, who was the only stranger that Mother would tolerate on such an occasion. The day for the great immersion arrived. Food and wine were prepared. The boat was cleaned out and filled with cushions, and everything was ready. Theodore turned up. On hearing that we had planned a moonlight picnic and swim, he reminded us that on that particular night, there was no moon. Everyone blamed everyone else for not having checked on the moon's phases. The argument went on until dusk. Eventually, we decided that we would go on the picnic in spite of everything. Since all the arrangements were made, we staggered down to the boat, loaded down with food, wine, towels, cigarettes, and set off down the coast. Theodore and I sat in the bows as lookouts. The rest took it in turn to row while Mother steered. To begin with, her eyes not having become accustomed to the dark, Mother skillfully steered us in a tight circle, so that after 10 minutes strenuous rowing, the jetty suddenly loomed up and we ran into it with a splintering crash. Unnerved by this, Mother went to the opposite extreme and steered out to sea. and we would eventually have made a landfall somewhere on the Albanian coastline if Leslie had not noticed in time. After this, Margot took over the steering, and she did it quite well, except that she would, in a crisis, get flurried and forget that to turn right one had to pull the tiller over to the left. The result was that we had to spend 10 minutes straining and tugging at the boat, which Margot had, in her excitement, steered into, instead of away from. Taken all round was an auspicious start. Others. Okay, do you see how this, what do you think? Do you think that it is exploring like a long story, like a long novel story? Or do you think it is just exploring this day of mother wanting to go for a swim?
I think it's just this day.
Yeah. And so, like, do you see how simple the story is? Just going for a swim.
Yo.
And, like, there's so much drama around it, and there's so much characterization, and they use descriptive elements, and, like, this book is really great. If you haven't read this book, Gerald Durrell, it's a great book, My Family and Other Animals. I love it.
Okay.
It's an easy read, but it is very entertaining. It's really good. But do you see how it's got such a beautiful? Did you feel like you were engaged the whole time? Like, you really want to know what's going to happen to this mother, right?
Yo.
You really want to know about the swim. And that's what we need to create in our writing. And that's why you need to be reading these different other people's narrative writing, other people's descriptive writing, so that you can see what does descriptive writing look like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It's very entertaining how they took something like quite boring and turned it into something interesting and like
Yeah. Do you see how it's not about having this extravagant story, and that's where people get it wrong. They think it's about having an extravagant story, but it's not about the extravagant story. It's about the writing itself.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, these are some short examples. Because usually novelists are not wanting to write a whole descriptive novel. They're just adding elements of description to their already narrative writing. Because can you imagine reading a 200-page book in which nothing happens and everything is just described?
Yeah, that's
Okay, so descriptive writing is only really relevant for shorter writing. And because people have more experience with narrative writing, because they've been reading longer stories their whole life, they don't know what elements of those narrative books that they've read, narrative novels, have been actually descriptive pieces. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Can I read you these examples? I'm not going to read you J.K. Rowling, but I'll read you Fitzgerald and Ernest Hemingway. In the last summer of that year, we lived in a house in a village that looked across the river, plain to the mountains. In the bed of the river, there were pebbles, boulders, dry and white in the sun, and the water was clear and swiftly moving, blue in the channel. Troops went by the house, down the road, and the dust they raised powdered the leaves. The trunks of the trees too were dusty, and the leaves fell early that we saw the troops marching along, and the dust rising and leaves stirred by the breeze falling, soldiers marching, and afterward, road bare and white, except Did you like that?
Yeah,
What did you like about it?
like it's so descriptive. You can almost see the image in front of you.
How did it make you feel?
I'm not really sure.
What did it make you think of?
It's like it gives this kind of peaceful feeling, like how he describes the rocks and the water and the trees.
It's kind of like it puts you in that moment, hey?
Yeah.
Okay. Look at this one. The flowers were unnecessary. 2:00, a greenhouse arrived, Gatsby's, with innumerable receptacles to contain it. An hour later, the front door opened. Gatsby, in a white flannel suit, silver shirt, and gold-colored tie, hurried in. Dark signs of sleeplessness. Instead of saying, and he seemed tired, it was dark signs of sleeplessness beneath his eyes. You see how there's a difference in how things are described and how effective that difference is.
Yeah.
Okay. This is, I don't know if you've read The Great Gatsby.
No.
Okay, this was actually a beautiful piece. I have kind of gotten off track here, but like I just feel like this is something that my students are like, do you have examples for us? And in the moment, I forget about the examples that I know. But like, I feel like as I go, I need to show you guys what good writing looks like, so that you can see this is what I'm expecting when I'm marking your exams. Like, I'm expecting descriptive writing. I'm expecting you to describe what you're seeing. The studio was filled with the rich odor of roses. And when the light summer wind stirred amidst the trees of the garden, there came through the open door heavy scent of most delicate pink flowering thought. As I read this, I want you to close your eyes and listen and imagine the scene. And I want you to take note of what it is that you are seeing most vividly. From the corner of the divan, I don't know how to say that, of Persian saddlebags, on which he was lying, smoking, as was his custom, innumerable cigarettes. Lord Henry Wotton, just catch the gleam, sweet, honey-coloured blossom of a laburnum, whose tremulous branches seemed hardly able to bear the beauty so flame-like. Now and then, a fantastic shadow of flitted across the long, saw silk curtains stretched in front of the producing a kind of Japanese, and making him think of those pallid jade faces who, through the medium of an art that is necessary, seek to convey the sense of swiftness. The sullen murmur of the bees shouldering their way through the long, circling with monotonous insistence round the dusty gill, straggling woodbine, seemed to make the stillness appropriate. The dim roar of London, like the urban. In the centre of the room, clamped to an upright easel, stood the full-length portrait of a young man, extraordinary personal beauty. In front of it, distance away, sitting, Basil, sudden disappearance some years ago. Whose sudden disappearance some years ago. At the time, such public excitement gave rise to so many strange conjectures. As the painter looked at the gracious and homely, yet so skillfully mirrored, a smile of pleasure passed across and seemed about to linger. Suddenly, closing his eyes, placed his fingers, though he sought to imprison within his brain some curious he feared he might. Here we go. What do you think of that description?
It's really good.
Okay, like, this is one of my favorite authors of all time. Oscar Wilde is a favorite. So obviously I'm not expecting you to be Oscar Wilde, but that is what descriptive writing looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Did you know that that was what descriptive writing should look like?
Yeah, I did. I just some people are just so good, and then I don't know what to write.
The thing is, spend some time. Take this piece even, and look at it and see, even if you want to use it, like you can use it in your piece here, in your text link that you're going to put here. Okay? So, what you can do is you can create, like, you can analyze it and see, okay, what did he do to make this so good? How was language used to create this description? You understand?
Yeah.
And, like, you're going to notice that it's not about the paragraphs. It's not about the pronouns. It's about creating this feeling in the reader, right? And this feeling is created through language, form, and structure. Okay. So that is that. Can we take maybe, yeah, I think I need a 7-minute break. Can we take like a 7-minute break? And then we will reconvene.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, not bye, just like I'll be back now. Okay, I'm back.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay. So the next thing we look at is our writing. Okay. So we need the knowledge and understanding that so in paper 2 we need the same knowledge as in paper 1. But we're going to apply our skills in a different way. So I'm just going to add this here. Okay. We're going to practice the following. We're going to write for a specific audience and purpose. So when we say write for a specific audience and purpose, we're going to make sure that as we start writing, we're aware. Who are we writing for? What do we hope to achieve with our writing? Then we're going to look at structuring our writing. Okay? So if you go watch the live stream that I did this morning, you'll see that I spoke about, okay, so we have 400 words. Let's break it up. 100 words there, 100 words there, 150, 150. And that's generally how we can structure it. And so, okay, in this paragraph, we're going to talk about this topic. In this paragraph, we're going to talk about this topic. That stops us from basically talking about everything all at once. Then using a range of appropriate linguistic and literary features is the next thing. Okay, so we need to make sure that we are, you know how in our paper 1, we have studied all the elements of language, form, and structure. Now in paper 2, we need to actually apply those to our own writing. And when we apply them to our own writing, we're going to then, in our reflective commentary in paper 2, comment on how we have used these linguistic features, how we have achieved the goal. Our next one is expressing ideas accurately. So say valid things, say useful things, and say it clearly. Don't make me read it 3 or 4 times to understand. Just let the person marking your exam actually understand what you're talking about. Okay. Reflecting upon and evaluating the qualities of your own writing, including aspects relating to it. Okay? Including aspects relating to its form, audience, purpose, form, and audience. So you need to understand, can you look at your own writing and say, okay, I did this well, I didn't do this well. Okay. Paper 3 and paper 4 we don't actually look at.
That's for AS.
For A level. Are you doing A levels after AS?
No.
Okay, so our key concepts. Moment. cases. Oh, the raisins are next to my bed, LG. Okay. So, in terms of text and context, it says it is important to understand that a text can range from a short conversation to a book published across several volumes. Okay. Furthermore, all texts have a context, which can refer to the time period or situation where something happens, was written or spoken. This can help to explain it and may help your understanding of the language. As an English language learner, you should always consider the meaning of a text due to the circumstances of where and when it was used, how it's communicated, and how it's received. Next up, we've got meaning and style. As an English language learner, wait, do you have any questions on the text and context?
No, it's fine.
As an English language learner, you should consider how form, structure, and language help to create a distinctive writing style. While studying your A-level in English language, you will develop a range of skills and techniques to identify and analyze how linguistic features in your own and others' writing create different effects. And it's very important that you understand meaning and style. Next up, audience. As an English language learner, you will need to identify and analyze the ways that writers and speakers use and adapt language to communicate with their intention. Likewise, you must be able to predict, recognize, and analyze the different responses to audience. The different responses the audiences may give depending on context, gender, age, race, class, etc. Throughout your English learning, okay, so that's audience. You know how I go on and on about audience and how we need to understand our audiences, and we need to have a thorough grasp on how what we're saying impacts our audience. Okay, creativity. Throughout your English language learning, you will need to think creatively and show your creativity in a range of forms and contexts, such as writing for a specific purpose and audience or analyzing a challenging text. We want to see your creativity. We want to see that you are able to think. You will learn that language is constantly subject, so diversity, you will learn that language is constantly subject to a range of influences, whether personal, social, geographical, or otherwise, that the English language exists in a range of forms at any given moment. Understanding how diverse language can be will offer you many opportunities for analysis, comparison, and exploration. So you need to understand, like one of my students wrote a piece, there was a lot of slang in the piece. He missed his marks because he didn't talk about like how that slang was relevant to his context when he was just busy describing it. So as a learner of then change. As a learner of English language, you will learn how the sounds, shapes, and meaning and style of letters, words, and syntax change over time. You will learn how to analyze these changes and explore the reason why these changes. So that's more paper 3 and paper 4. So paper 1, you're given, yes?
Like, what kind of changes are they talking about?
So how words have changed over time, and how there was Old English and Middle English and Modern English, and even within Modern English, it has changed over time to look totally different. Like Shakespeare. Did you know that what type of English do you think Shakespeare was?
It's like Old English.
Yeah, let's check the facts. So it's Elizabethan. Early modern English.
So it's like
Do you want an example of Old English?
I don't really know. I can.
Well, I'm gonna give you. Yeah. This is Old English. This is Old English.
What did it say? I can't really read.
I can't read. Oh, you can't read? What?
Yeah, I can't read on the screen.
Oh gosh. Okay, let me do that. Can you see that better? Let me make it. Can you see that?
A
Bit more.
You know you can make my picture bigger, right?
Where can I do that?
If you click on the picture.
Oh.
Wait, what? Like, I don't even know what it says.
Yeah, no, I like it's hectic, hey?
The only word I can actually read is under.
Like I understand some of this, but I can't read. I'm not good enough at Old English to be able to just read it without a translation. And I get a lot of the pronunciation wrong. Okay, so that's Old English, and that's the changes in English that we're referring to.
Okay.
Interesting, hey?
Yeah.
Did you know? Wait, let's quickly look this up. Talking about Shakespeare. How many words does Shakespeare make up? How many words did Shakespeare invent? Tell me, do you think Shakespeare? How old do you think the word bump is?
Bump, like bumping into something.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's more modern than Shakespeare.
Shakespeare invented the word bump.
Really?
Uh-huh. He introduced over 1,700 words that are still used today. He used more than 20,000 words in his plays and poems.
Wow, imagine.
Okay. So we're being tested in our paper 1 and 2 on AO1, AO2, and AO3. So AO1 is about you need to show that you've developed your reading skills and techniques. And you need to do that using the text in the exam paper. So they're going to be looking at your knowledge and understanding of linguistic and literary features. They're also going to look at your ideas about the ways that audience, purpose, and style and context influence the meaning of texts. So again, here, you know these key concepts? How do these things influence the meaning of texts? And that's what we're looking for. Do you see how this is a lot more complicated in what it's expecting you than IGCSE level was? Yeah. And do you see why I make you guys work? Like, I've been quite chill with you guys the last month or so because I know that you guys have other exams that you're writing. But as soon as you guys have finished writing your May exams, we are going to be pushing really hard and working really hard. Okay, then AO2, we're going to be looking at your skills and techniques in writing. So we're looking at whether your writing is appropriate for the audience purpose and form specified in the question on the exam paper. Not the way that you have understood the question, to me, what understood the question, but what it actually is on the exam paper. So you're going to need to write in a structured way, and you need to express your ideas accurately and clearly using linguistic and literary features. So you're going to need to use things like imagery, rhetorical devices, or evaluative terms. Lastly, we're looking at AO3. Okay? That's all about your ability to analyze the text. So are you able to analyze and compare the text presented in the exam paper? We'll be looking at how you choose features from the text to use as evidence for your ideas on form, structure, and language, and the comparisons you make and the way in which you bring your ideas together. So is it like cohesive? Does it work together? Does it all fit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So AO1, your understanding of text and reading and stuff counts as 15% of your total marks. AO2, which is your writing, counts as 45%. And AO3, which is your analysis, counts as 10. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So you write 3 papers.
No, you're at 2 papers.
2.
Oh, I see.
So question 1A of paper 1 is looking at AO1 and I think AO2. Give me a moment. I think AO1 and AO2. Question 1B looks at I can't totally remember which outcomes each one is. So I'm not going to tell you without being certain. Okay. Then we've got this section here, which I'd actually like to complete with you later in the week. Yeah, but was this helpful going through this,
Yeah, it was.
giving you clarity? I just feel like I always expect my students to do this on their own, but they never do. And so I just think, you know what, let me just do it. That way I know it's done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, what I'd like, okay, so on Thursday, it is a public holiday. Okay?
Yeah.
Are you, I don't know what everyone's plans are for the public holiday. So I know that I'm mostly not working, but I might do some lessons. But I want to just hear where you guys are at. A lot of you are writing exams, so I just need some clarity around that. I don't want to have a lesson if it's just going to be one person. And then on Friday, I am going to a funeral. So I will need to still confirm, but the lesson is either going to be from 10 to 11 or from 11 to 12. Okay.
On Friday.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no lesson on Thursday.
There might be a lesson on Thursday, but I'm just going to check in the group.
Okay.
Well, just contact everyone privately. What are your plans for the public holiday?
No, I don't have any plans. We're just gonna be here. So I don't mind if there is a lesson.
Cool. Bye.